Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. On this Tuesday, Alec Lasley will be joining us here in just a second from thehoosier.com with On 3. That is a big change. I hope you guys will be able to go there and check it out. The redirect is not up yet with just by using thehoosier.com, but it will soon be there. Alec Lasley, the managing editor of thehoosier.com with On 3, joining us now. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing, Jim?
Oh, you know, just peaches and cream, baby. Peaches and cream on this Tuesday. I was just talking about thehoosier.com and joining with On 3. How soon do you expect that people can just go to thehoosier.com and that redirect will be there?
Yeah, it should be up later this morning, but I know you have the direct link right now below. So, we have nearly a dozen different stories up already. Mix of basketball, mix of football, recruiting. So tons of content already up on the site and ready for everyone.
Yeah, part of which is Connor Enright. You've got these visits, a lot of visits today, right?
Yeah, so Josh Dix got to campus late last night. He's doing the majority of his visit today. Connor Enright doing the majority of his visit today as well. And that will probably bleed a little bit into Wednesday. And then Ryan Conwell was yesterday. So, busy week before the dead period hits later on this week where visits aren't going to be allowed. So a lot of guys trying to get everything kind of finalized this week. I wouldn't be surprised if you see just around the country, a lot of different portal commitments over the next kind of 72 hours. A lot's going on with the NIL kind of legislation and settlement as well later this week. So a lot of kids want to get their NIL deals all finalized before that goes through. So this is going to be a busy week for a lot of guys around the country.
Yeah, I know Trent Sisley is actually supposed to be meeting with Darian DeVries today as well because tomorrow the dead period begins, I think, right?
Later on this week. Yeah. So
it's later on this week.
Thursday. Yeah. Thursday. And then runs through the 11th. So about a week-long stretch there. So a couple days left.
Would you expect to see Darian DeVries at Chipotle? Since it's right in the backyard, and I know that there are some uncommitteds there.
I don't know. It'll depend because Connor Enright still is going to run a little bit through Wednesday. We'll see, how long that truly stretches. We'll see. There's obviously going to be a big push to get as many guys on campus this week over the next, again, 72 hours. He made obviously the appearance at the state championship game. He made the obviously going to have the visit with Trent Sisley. They've already spoken multiple times. I don't know if it's necessarily something that he has to do in order to kind of make that presence. I think he's already made that known. So I think it's going to be kind of full steam ahead with solidifying the full staff, solidifying kind of the next couple of targets that they want obviously to get on campus and making sure that they're doing everything they can to build out a team, which obviously needs to be fully built out at this point.
Yeah, and even though he kind of had a head start getting hired and then being ahead of the curve, with having to put together the staff and all of that, didn't really give them that head start they were looking for, I don't believe.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, the majority of the staff was probably already kind of known through back channels, right? Now it's just kind of going through, all the HR, necessities to make sure the background checks and everything is kind of solidified. But it's more or less a formality at this point with the majority of the staff. We've started to see names kind of, dribble out here. Obviously, Norton was with DeVries at the state championship game. We saw Drew Adams at the state championship game. Those are two guys that are expected to be part of this staff. So, whether or not it's officially announced, there's the majority of the staff, if not the entirety of it, kind of put together at this point. And it's probably just waiting on a couple small little things before they make that formal announcement. But Indiana is going to plan on announcing this all together instead of one at a time. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer just to get everything out there in front of everyone.
Yeah, and I believe the staff is filled. If I believe the fourth guy, or I shouldn't say fourth, third assistant, Drew Adams was already. We saw him at the state finals. We saw Nick Norton at the state finals, and who is the fourth or the third?
Well, nothing's been made official
yet.
So we're still waiting on a few of those names to kind of be solidified.
Absolutely. So now Indiana, I know a lot of people are a little fearful that somebody mentioned earlier that they thought Indiana had missed out on some guys already. And I don't know that that's the case because players are going places. Yeah. But I don't know that you're necessarily missing out on guys.
Yeah, no. And again, a lot of this stuff is going on through back channels, whether or not, anyone hears about it. So when guys enter the portal, we see all the time, there's already maybe 5 or 6 programs that are already mentioned because all this stuff happens on the back end. And there's a lot less work that needs to happen kind of more outwardly than through those back channels. A lot of these guys kind of know midway through the year, if not towards the end of the year, 1, whether they're going to enter the portal or not. And then 2, kind of where they're getting some interest from already. A lot of these kids already have agents, so a lot of that stuff goes through them to kind of set up the first part of their initial kind of surge in the portal. But I mean, you look at what they've been able to do just this week, right, with Conwell, Josh Dix, and then Connor Enright. A lot of that starts with relationships. Obviously, Josh Dix, if people don't know the relationship there, he played on the AAU circuit with Tucker DeVries. Was recruited very heavily by Darian DeVries when he was at Drake. And that relationship is very, very well established. And then you look into, obviously, Connor Enright played at Drake with Darian DeVries, played alongside Tucker DeVries. So that relationship is already very, very firm in itself. Both are still going to be recruitments that Indiana needs to put forth a lot of effort in. By no means is anything, a walk in the park, especially when it comes to the transfer portal nowadays. But those are 2, right? If you're looking at, any in terms of a relationship aspect of why Indiana was able to get involved right away, are that. You look at Connor Enright, he's coming off of a visit to Iowa. It's pretty much going to come down to those 2 programs at this point. We'll see if he does decide to take any additional visits. But again, with that dead period coming up, it's either going to need to be right away or things are going to be pushed out another week and a half before you kind of get that visit and then obviously get a decision at some point then. And then you look at Josh Dix, Illinois, Creighton, Kansas, kind of the main programs there, all have been visited by Josh Dix and now kind of finalizing that visit train with Indiana today. Would assume a decision would likely come very quick for him with all those visits already taken. It doesn't sound like that's going to be a long one that'll really kind of go past the next, maybe 48 hours. And it's pretty much, let's get done with Indiana. Let's look at everything and finalize things. And then Ryan Conwell, obviously the big connection there is with Texas. Played obviously under Sean Miller at Xavier. Now Xavier no longer has either Ryan Conwell or Sean Miller. So the big thing with that is whether or not he will follow Sean Miller down to Texas. There's expected to be a visit there following this Indiana one. Louisville's been mentioned. They look to be heavily in the mix for a lot of other transfer guards as well. Just got Woolley in the transfer portal yesterday, one of the top kind of combo guards there. Mikel Brown's obviously coming in, 5-star, who ended up winning the McDonald's All-American 3-point contest last night. So they have a lot of guard-heavy production already on the roster. Doesn't seem to be a perfect fit for what Ryan Conwell's looking for. So this may be an Indiana Texas battle to see if he does follow Sean Miller or not. But Indiana's got to be pretty happy with kind of what they have at the core with these kind of 4 guys, including obviously Tucker DeVries, who's by all accounts just a formality at this point to end up in Bloomington.
And of that core group, what would that bring to Indiana? What would that bring to Darian DeVries and what he is wanting to do in his first season in Bloomington?
Yeah, shooting, right? I mean, he talked about this.
What is? I'm sorry. What is that? What is that?
Exactly. So, I mean, this is one thing that he's really stressed is having plenty of depth, is what he called it, at the shooting areas. So that's pretty much anywhere on the perimeter. But these are guys who shot 37, 38+% from 3. You look at Josh Dix, 42% three-point shooter for his career. Tucker DeVries was up near 47% last year. High volume guy as well. Ryan Conwell, obviously another terrific shooter, both at Indiana State and then at Xavier last year. So that obviously translated to the next level. And then Connor Enright's kind of the one guy who is not known as a true knockdown shooter, but has a really good ability to do that. Shot about 38% when he did play, which was his best shooting season, his second year at Drake. So he can produce in the Darian DeVries system and offense, but he's more of the facilitator and the true point guard that's going to get all these guys open looks. Had a phenomenal assist rate of over 35% last year at DePaul. And if you're relating that to kind of what Trey Galloway was able to do as obviously the main point guard for this Indiana team over the last 2 years, he was only at 19% for an assist rate last year. And then Yogi Ferrell never above 30% for his career. So two of the top point guards there from an Indiana passing perspective, never even sniffed where Connor Enright was from an assist rate. And that was obviously playing with, arguably what's going to be probably not as much talent with DePaul. So already knows the system, already has a skill set. And then obviously his shooting percentage was something that, really, really was at an all-time high when he played in the system previously.
And that is nothing but great news for Indiana basketball fans. What does Darian DeVries look for in his middle guy, in his 5? I hate to call him a 5, but in this day and age of a lot of positionless basketball, but there's still the big guy. The big guy's still involved. How does Darian DeVries use that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a more versatile and athletic front court than what Indiana fans have been used to, which is kind of more of the traditional back it down post presence. You're still going to have the shot blocking ability, right? But it's going to be more of a kind of fluid athleticism and true length than it is, width and girth and strength. It's not going to be kind of your traditional Big Ten pounded in the paint offense, right? So you're going to have more of a free flowing offensive set. You're going to have more 4 around 1, if not 5 out at times. But this is going to be a team that again is going to be very perimeter oriented and very guard heavy with their ability to have a few different playmakers on the floor, but more so again shooters to be able to spread the floor and eliminate some of that clogged production that we've obviously been used to from an Indiana offense over the last 8 years. With again those very traditional back to the basket, on the block big guys. So it's going to be vastly different from that, a way more athletic, modern sense of the true 5 there.
And I'm not suggesting it, but with someone like Derek Queen, because I know he would work into about anybody, but is that someone that would work into a system like you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you make the system around Derek Queen. Queen, obviously, we've seen what he can do, right? It's not him trying to fit in. It's more so you trying to fit the pieces around him. That's a guy who, if he comes back to college, that's going to be a head-scratching move
Yeah,
and
I agree.
highly doubt that would ever happen. But I mean, he has the ability to fit in anywhere. I think it's more so for Indiana now. You're going to see a lot of the top players and the top production coming from 1 through 4, and probably a lot less from your 5, which is again not traditional from the Indiana perspective, where you had Omar Ballo, even Malik Renew, Khalil Ware, Trace Jackson Davis, right? A lot of these guys who led the team in scoring and production overall were those kind of true centers from the college sense, and didn't really have the ability to step out on the perimeter outside of what Khalil Ware showed from time to time. So this is going to be a vastly different offensive system, but one that again is built for college basketball today, and one that's going to be built a little bit more for what the Big Ten's trying to get to. Big Ten seems to be kind of the one conference that's a little bit behind when it comes to true perimeter athleticism. And there's a reason why they haven't won a national championship in going on almost 3 decades, right? So it's something that needs to be fixed, and this is a system that truly is built for this day and age in college basketball.
Yeah, you think of Purdue a little bit, but at the same time, you think of Purdue because as good as, say, Braden Smith has been and Fletcher Lawyer, they're not the most athletic guys out in NCAA basketball, and I'm not saying that to harp on Purdue at all. I mean, those are 2 very, very, very good players, but when they lose, it is because they get out athleted, I guess you would say.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the biggest thing is yes, you need shooters. Yes, you need good guards, but more oftentimes than not, the bigger guards win out, right? We've seen Alabama kind of flail out a little bit here with Mark Sears. Carolina, which was expected to have a very talented backcourt, 2 smaller guards, even 3 if you add in Seth Trimble, right? I mean, it just you look around the country, and a lot of these guard-heavy teams have athletic, long, bigger guards who are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", who are able to defend multiple positions, but more importantly, attack and get downhill. And that's just not what Indiana has had. It's not what Purdue has. And there's a reason why, they reach a certain point. And obviously, if you don't have a guy like Zach Edey who's able to absolutely dominate a game, there's only a certain level that you can get to in the ceiling. But again, you look at what Florida has this year. All their guards are obviously tremendous shot makers, but 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" perimeter players. Obviously Duke, Zion James, Tyrese Proctor, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", right? And you go on, and all these Final Four teams have true length and athleticism and size at the guard position, and that's what you need to win college basketball games at this point in this era of college basketball.
And Indiana, not the scholarship limits now go up to 15. And so there are a ton of spots that they can fill. Now, with that 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th guy, they're probably going to be just considered bodies, because at the end of the day, nobody is playing more than 10 guys. And actually, most get down to a rotation of less than that. It's just for a little bit of depth, hopefully, and practice players now, because I don't think that they're going to have walk-ons at all, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting with how teams do this. I doubt there's going to be a lot of guys, right, who are going to want to be, the 15th player on a really good team and not see any time. That's more or less, going to be, your new walk-on per se. I'd be surprised if you see a lot of 15 scholarship deep rosters. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. But it does give you the flexibility, right, where you can kind of take a 1-year gamble on someone, because all these players are taking 1-year theoretical contracts, right, in college basketball anymore. So a 1-year scholarship isn't going to be a huge deal if you want to take a flyer on maybe a high potential guy. If he doesn't work out, then it's not going to hurt you. But if he does, then that increases the ceiling of your team drastically from where you probably wouldn't have been if you only had the 3 less scholarships, 2 or 3 less scholarships than what you're going to have moving forward. So I still think you're going to see a lot of teams 12, 13, kind of the max Still have maybe 2 walk-ons, but just kind of go from that point.
Make sure you go to www.on3.com/teams/Indiana-Hoosiers, and you'll find the new On3 site for the Hoosier.com. Alec Lasley, congratulations, and thank you very much. We'll talk to you
appreciate
again
it, Jim.
soon.
Absolutely.